Is VP people.
We are your hosts, Taylor and
Enrico.
This is Unfiltered Conversations
Global.
where we have the conversations that you want to have.
But you don't.
We have the conversations that you should have.
But you don't.
And the conversations that you overall just avoid. So jump in with us today for this episode of
Unfiltered Conversations Global.
Welcome to Unfiltered Conversations Global. This episode today we're going to be discussing with our co-hosts Taylor and Eric. We're going to be discussing this. Oh, he's got to say it. Go ahead.
Is VP people.
So we're going to be discussing a really light topic today, one that people will probably brush off a little bit, and that is politics and Christianity, like politics and Christians. I think there's a lot of very interesting angles on this, and there's going to be probably some intense levels of not scrutiny, but intense levels of opinion on this. So we'll probably hear some hot takes in the comment section, but go ahead and get us kicked off, Eric, on maybe some politics as Christians, as it pertains to Christians.
I'll start with Inchi ya kitu kidogo. You all know that song.
I don't. What does it mean?
A country that when you in places you need things you have to give something. How do we call it? Like we can call it like
Greasing the wheels.
Yeah, greasing the wheels. Yeah. Interesting facts about Kenya. Let me talk about Kenya because I'm well versed with Kenya. Interesting facts about Kenya. We are statistically, Kenya population is 80% Christians. And our ranking in corruption is we are in the top 10 ranked country worldwide corruption-wise. Which does it mean us as Christians, is there something wrong that we are doing, or are we complacent with what we are doing in terms of corruption, in terms of being a Christian and being a good steward of what God has entrusted you with at our workplaces, in things that we do? So like, that rate of that percentage is too big. The two are too big because 80% Christian and top 10 corrupt countries. That's a very big figure. So as a Christian, what can we do different in places of authority and in places that we've been entrusted by either citizen, employers, or just God, naturally, as in just God in all the part that we participate in. So like, we need to be good stewards of what responsibility we've been given. What do we do and what can we change for this number, for us to be able to get out of the top 10 most corrupt country to the least corrupt country with these big numbers? So does it mean the churches we go to, does it really emphasize on these things of being a good Christian? I've talked about that rate, and sometimes probably we might just think Kenya is the only corrupt country. Let's know is America really corrupt as well, and what's the percentage of the number of Christian in America? Does it really affect your view on this perspective before even we dive into this topic further? What's the number of institutional things that you won't like that happens in America, and with the number of Christian that you have in that country? Because like everything almost boils down from there. The rainbow kind of thing started from there, and we've got other movements that are coming up in that country. And let me tell you, things that happen from America do affect the entire world, generally. And you as a Christian, what do you think? As in, what are the numbers?
There was a lot of questions there. And so I think one of the things I want to kind of frame all of this discussion in is one, when we talk about percentage of population that's Christian, I think we need to keep in mind what Jesus talked about, that there will be many that say, Lord, Lord, but depart from me, I don't know you. And so that's important to keep in mind, that there are people who will live their lives godless and say that they are Christian. There will people that say that they are Christian and couldn't tell you one relational thing that they have experienced or that they have done with God. I mean, it's just so... Kenya's in the midst, I think, of a cultural Christianity that has faded away more in a lot of parts of the West, but in America as well, but maybe not to the extent as Europe or the like. And so those are important things to keep in mind when we talk about what percentage of our population are believers, because, again, we're talking about what we're really wanting to know is who are the people that are actively involved in a believing community that would give their life for Christ, understand what the cost is, and live according to the scriptures. And then what are they doing to influence their country's governance? Because, like, you have Jesus saying, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, so our taxation is, whatever the government says we'll pay. But it's an interesting thing to be able to then like institute what the government says you have to pay. So it's like, okay, if I can keep more of the money that we earn as a family, or if you can keep more money that you earn as a family and then use that as you think God would have you use, I think that's better.
Yes.
That then the government taking it and maybe it goes a cut here or a cut there. Even if there's not corruption, government is just not good at running things. They're good at destroying things. Like their ability to conduct war is outmatched, by private or individuals. So our ability to jump into governance, I think, is really more unique in world history. So whether you're talking democracy or even your ability to get into a position to effectuate that change that would enable Christians to have the freedom that they have to worship, or to limit the persecution, or to lower the taxes so that the money can be used and given away as saw fit. So I think those are all important parts of this discussion. America is a very interesting place. There is a lot, I think, that people will look at in America and say that is wrong and problematic and a huge issue. And there's a lot to agree with there. And I think in the balance of that discussion, it's important to remember what America has provided and what America has been an influence for across the world, especially as it pertains to religious freedom, and what Christianity in interacting with government has been responsible for. And then you have the flip side of what government interacting with Christianity has been responsible for. So government interacting with Christianity, essentially the state using the church for its own means, has produced a lot of very negative things. You have the Crusades, you have some of the ways that Nazi Germany used the church pre-World War II and then also during World War II. So I think there's a giant danger in which the founding Alexander. No, I don't remember which founding father. There was a letter that talked about the separation of church and state, and the whole purpose of that statement was the protection of the church from manipulation by the state. And that, I think, is really important to maintain in all of this. So I think our discussion is largely centered around, okay, we are believers, and those other people who are believers, how do you interact in politics and the government?
Yes, and Taylor, there's something interesting that earlier we discussed, and you desire getting, as in you had a desire of politics at a point in life. And as a Christian, how do you get into politics? And how do you get into politics and maintain your sanity?
Yeah, maybe in the States I have a naive view of politics. Maybe that's existed in Kenya as well. For me, that, I just figure the things that I believe and the way that I think I'd carry myself and the policies that I'd want to enact, there's a lot of people that agree with them. And so I just need to articulate those points and win. And then enact the things that I have been put there to enact, and to not compromise. People always talk about compromise being the only way to governance, and it's like, it's only one way of governance. If you are unwavering on a very important moral point, it's not bad, because then you're not allowing that moral window, the Overton window of discussion and also acceptability, to shift more away from what and understand to be right. And so maybe it's a simplistic view. Maybe I would have to do a bunch of compromises to get agenda items completed, but it's something that I have thought about and prayed a lot about. There was a big moment in my life where I could have chosen to have done some internships in DC or follow what I knew God wanted me to do. And so I had to shut down that part of my life. But I don't want to say constantly, but I sometimes will remind God that it's like, hey, I'm down, But then when you have kids, and it's like, especially you come into realize that politics are dirty, not only in like the mudslinging, the slander that happens in the media.
Yeah.
But sometimes stuff gets dangerous for your family.
It does.
Like very large corporations or sections of government that don't agree with you, and then they come and warn you, and you see it in the media, and you kind of wonder if it happens, and it's like, well, if it did happen, that would be a pretty crappy spot to be in. That it's like, protect my family and compromise my morals, or hold my morals and put my family at risk. Like, that'd be very difficult. So maybe God has saved me or protected me from those kind of experiences in limiting my ability to go into politics. But yeah, it's kind of an interest of mine, and because all of this stuff affects us, I think it's important that we stay abreast of what's going on and understand what's happening and where the policies are going, and what culture is doing to push those policies. And then how we can affect culture. So yeah, that's kind of my slight interest in politics.
Yeah, for me, is it like, I remember when my first interest I got interest in politics as a Christian, and I even went ahead and with a group of friends, we registered a political party.
What?
Yeah, we did.
I was not aware of this.
We did.
Oh, what was it called?
Young People's Party.
YPP?
Yes.
Did you shout it in the streets?
Yeah. We did not. We were like...
Do you still have it?
It's still there, but like, it's very dormant. It's not very active.
What do you have to do to maintain a political party here in Kenya?
There's quite a lot. There's quite a lot that you need to do. There's the finances aspect on it that you need to pay on the political parties. So, but this was a group of friends that were like-minded, and we desired to get into politics at that particular time. And me having experience in different places of the world, I thought, sometimes when you come from this different place like, say, the US, the UK, the Europe, the European part of the world, sometimes you think you can come back into your country and immediately switch things and make things work in a way that is similar to that world, forgetting that there are rules here and there are regulations that you need to go through to be able to get that. And then for you to be able to influence certain values, you have to come in a way that you have to embrace what you have and then help in rectifying that. You don't have to just come and impose certain laws from a different place to a different. And I think that was the wrong notion that we had. Like, we were thinking, well, we were Christian, and we looked at corruption, and we're thinking, like, when we get in power, we need to do things straight. But it doesn't work like that. As we were learning these things, there's quite a lot that happens. And our political patron, was famous politician that I won't mention. And
Who was it?
I cannot mention that.
And what? Sorry, for those of us who don't understand,
Yeah.
what do you mean our political patron?
Like, is almost like someone that is advising you guys in terms of the people that have been there politically, and
Okay.
they're more like advisor or mentor.
Okay. Yeah.
Something like that. Like, they came back to us and they're like, okay, you've got a good vision, but like at this particular time, I would like you guys to plug into this other political party. And plugging into those other political parties meant like you almost like bribe your way in, because like now there are already other people, and the person that gives the most probably get the benefit of getting into those political parties. As a Christian now, thinking like you want to come in and fight things like corruption, when you get that, the policies, but you already, from the first instant, you've already tarnished your name in getting into politics. And we were like, I think we should just sit it out and then probably re-strategize and then come in later and in a proper way. Because like, if you want to change something, you cannot come in a crooked way, because that will always be
Your foundation.
your foundation. And and I think this is what happens with many young leaders who want to get into politics. We all believe like we need to compromise something to get into politics, because the moment you compromise, there's no way you're going to be free of it, because the people who compromise you, they're still going to use that, and you'll need to do even more. You'll be even more compromised in the system. But if you come in as a person who's not compromised, then you can be able to bring or advocate for good policies that will govern properly. So, as a Christian in politics, for me, I think there's space for us to get into politics. But like, how do we get into it? Sometimes praying. Sometimes you see, when you tell someone to believe and trust God upon it for God to lead you, sometimes it might sound like cliche. But like, I think if you pray, because we see top characters in the one of the best character in the Bible that was so loyal was Daniel. Daniel was a man that
Working
was
in a-
Daniel was a politician, and he was a very diligent politician, and there's no point that he allowed himself to be compromised. And
Joseph too.
Joseph too was this amazing governor.
Nehemiah. Like, there's a lot.
Yeah, there are lots. And when we read their stories, they were not compromised. There are those that were compromised in the Bible, but like, they turned away. Like, I think David, there's a point where he was a bit compromised, and power was too much in him. So for me, I'll encourage young Christian men to get into politics, because I think if we have people who are morally upright in politics, then we will not have a lot of issues that are going around, like the complaints that we are having about things and policies that are being passed that are not right policies. If we've got a strong Christian base in politics, it means we are going to rectify that bit.
As long as those people are not corrupted.
Yes.
Somebody comes to you and says, you know, especially you come from modest means, maybe your parents own or rent a house in a part of Nairobi, and then somebody comes and says, hey, I know you disagree with this bill, but we've got 40 acres. We shall go for you if you decide to go ahead and vote for it.
It's tempting.
We just need to sign this. If you vote for it, we sign it and hand it over to you. That's quite the temptation.
It's a big one. And all of us are looking for property, wealth.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And so
and
and that's small.
we
Now imagine
desire.
somebody says, "Here's 30 million just for this one vote."
Yeah.
30 million. 300,000 USD on a terrible exchange rate, like just 100 to 1, where it's actually like 120, 130 to 1. So it's $300,000.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of money.
There's talking about that. It's just a reminder. Like sometimes, like in politics, waiting or in anything in life, like doing the correct way of things is usually a harder process. There's a story. There's a book, Chinua Achebe book. Many Kenyans will resonate with this. This is a guy who was well educated. And he came back to his country, and for him, he was a very straight man. But being straight could not bring food on the table. And he could see all his friends who were crooked, they were making a kill. They had nice houses, nice cars, and him, he was wallowing in poverty. So, and he was like, and they kept on telling him, if you just do A, B, C, D, you'll be good. But he was the most learned person. So, like, we're just talking about compromise. So, if you get to a point where you don't want to work hard, you want things in an easy way, you get there, you want things in an easy way, you get compromise, and that tarnishes you as a person, and it makes you not able to be a good leader.
Yeah, there's the saying that everybody has a price.
True.
You know, and when you're in politics,
Do you have a price?
the availability of that price
Yeah.
is much more common.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming up to you on the street saying, "Hey, if you lie for me, I'll give you $5 million."
Yeah.
But in politics, they might come up and say, "Hey, vote this way." Like essentially lie to all of your constituents about what you were or are going to do. We'll give you 5 million USD. It's like, man, that's a lot of freaking money.
It's like now we are talking about, it's easy to talk about these things, but like when you're put,
Yeah, when you're in this situation. So that's why when you say, I want young Christian men to get into politics, it's like maybe seasoned Christian men that have had their kids and, are well established, because those temptations, I think, would be further off for them. Young Christian guy, it's like, maybe all you have to do is send a really pretty girl into his office and bam, you have that vote.
Yeah.
So it's like I would very much want to know the political maturity of that person, and not political maturity, the spiritual maturity of that person, because man, it's just crazy. It's just crazy to be able to be receiving those kind of offers, and so.
It's easy. It's easy when,
and it doesn't just happen in Kenya. You have in the U.S. a similar type of thing happening with, you get into politics and now you need to vote this way on this bill to benefit these specific businesses or these specific industries over these other ones, even though these other ones are generally more well frequented by your constituents or the like. So it's just, I'm not sure, man. It's a difficult question in reality, I think.
For me, I think like by the time you're making that bold move of getting into politics, be it as a member of parliament or a governor or a senator or even the smallest as MCA, I think as a Christian, you need to spend time with God to be sure, like, this is the path that you are taking, and to pray around it, like Daniel did. You really, as you said, you really have to be mature, because like the temptation around there are too much, and sometimes you might be going through a difficult spell of financial stability, and someone offering you some millions. You'll be like,
solves a lot of problems.
You'll be like, okay, I can take it and then ask for forgiveness.
See, that's a wickedness. And
Yeah, you
Paul
understand.
talks about, like, by no means are we to utilize God's grace. By no means.
Yeah.
And I think that is really, like, I think part of the Christian problem with politics is that we are quite forgiving and tolerant,
Yes.
probably beyond what we are supposed to be. I mean, Paul talks about just kicking people out of the church. Like, you're going to be some weird pervert, get them out.
Yeah.
And then you look at, like, in Acts, these two people came and they were corrupt and said, here's how much we sold our land for, when it wasn't that much. And also, nobody was making them do it. They could have just said, hey, we're giving half of what we sold the land for. No. And they were dropped dead.
Yes. No, I'm just like, that would have been a good
And so
thing.
it's like,
Imagine.
maybe is that insight into corruption? Because this person was peddling this lie for what reason? For their own benefit in the way the community viewed them.
Yes.
And isn't that a huge part about how people get elected?
Yeah.
Doing things for the beneficial view and how the community sees them.
Yes. That's how it does.
So I think that the Bible is quite clear.
Yeah.
You know, on our ability as Christians to dive into corruption. And you know, when you get people that start compromising and then people are like, oh, they're just human. It's like, no, you're a child of God
Yes.
who has standards. And I'm not saying perfection is there, but it's like, you're a leader. Understand you are judged more harshly, not only by God, but also by us people. Why? Because you also represent us.
Yeah, true.
And we are ascribed to be following you so that we can avoid God's judgment for us not holding them accountable. And so I think it's...
That would be crazy. Like you knowing, like, if you lie, you can drop dead. I think every politician will be scared if you're a Christian and then you get into politics.
Trying to manipulate God
Yeah,
and the people of God,
Yes.
and then drop dead. Like, ooh,
Everyone.
how
will
many
be
wars would
afraid.
have been prevented by that?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's so I think running for office, I think it's important. Like I've got a lot of friends who have gone that path.
Yeah.
It's difficult, but it's worthwhile. You know, they can effectuate change on a level, and for a term of time that is beyond what really I could affect just by myself.
Yeah.
And people will say, well, how in the world can you force your beliefs on other people? It's like, well, that's all the government does.
Yeah, that's true.
It literally, in their entirety, they just force their beliefs on other people.
Yeah.
So it's really not a question of, is it going to happen? It's who has the voice to be making it happen, and what standards are they using? And if you look pretty dang consistently, the Bible is pretty dope. Individual life matters.
it
So you
speaks to us.
can't just have police officers
Yeah.
willy-nilly killing people
Yeah.
because they disagree or they're exercising their right to their power too aggressively. Like, no, you hold that police officer accountable, even though they're the representative of the government. That's a Christian ethic, that this person innately has value over the state. And that the state's responsibility is the protection and the proliferation and the propagation of these people. You look at the Constitution of the U.S. and it's like, it starts off talking about there are rights that we are just born with.
Yeah.
Not that we are given by the government or that the government allows us to have, but that by the very fact of us being created by God, we are given certain rights.
Yeah.
Now, those rights inevitably can and will be used for wicked things.
Yes.
And that is a painful part of the reality, and a painful part that we have to endure just as God has to endure. Because God gave us that right and rarely intervenes to compromise that. You have times in the Bible where you see God hardening somebody's heart, like Pharaoh.
Yeah.
And it seems like, okay, he's pushing him. Making might seem a strong word unless you're Reformed or Calvinist. Then it's like, well, of course. Making them do something, right? And then you have other times in the same section of Scripture where Pharaoh hardened his own heart.
Yeah.
And so you have these rights that are given, and these rights of these choices to make, and then to bear the responsibility of those choices being carried out. And I think the state, and when we are looking at establishing laws and rules, that we look at what is best for society that does not violate or infringe on these rights. And then you make your rules based on that. And you're unable to establish the value of that individual without at least a philosophical reference and understanding of God. Because if there is no God, then it is actually societal supremacy that matters.
Yeah.
If you and your kind are a burden on society, and you can get people that say, well, actually being altruistic is there. It's not the God delusion. There's a book by Dawkins that he wrote that really talked about altruism being evolutionarily demonstrable. And I think he made some jumps in there. I'm not an expert, but I was in reading the book, it was like, that's probably too far of a jump. But once you progress, especially beyond small interactions, like this larger interactions, okay, what is atheistically, what is stopping us from eliminating these problems? And these problems being the homeless.
Yeah.
What's wrong with us just eliminating them? They're a burden on society. They're a problem to everybody. They cause crime. They cause lots of different kinds of crime. They
bring a lot of hardship.
And they eat up a lot of tax dollars. They waste. There's all these terrible things. But and that only can be discussed if you lose or don't have a basis for the inherent value of the individual.
Yes.
And I think a lot of what the West has done is they've taken this framework that you find in the scriptures, in the Bible, and they've said, okay, this works really well, this looks really good, and they say, okay, but we're going to eliminate
This.
the ultimate foundation for it, which is God endowing those rights. And when you do that, it's like, then you can argue you lawyers can argue and manipulate your way to really anything.
Not really.
And no, there was even a Kenyan lawyer who was talking about the only certain thing that law provides is that there's not certainty how to interpret it.
True.
And so if that's if you say that's true, then you can take this framework.
You can take the framework
and do whatever you want with it.
Yeah,
especially if you have time.
Because there's nothing that is wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Especially if you have time and you can set various levels of precedent that will then alter the foundational understanding of the original law.
One.
And so
that's what normally happens with law, because you can see how our law is built from the early fathers, from the Stoic kind of the philosophical part of it, the Stoic, the Alexandra. You look at that, how the law was built, but at this particular time, how it has been interpreted. They've interpreted it
and
down,
compromised left and right.
Yes, and changed. But you're right on that. So I'm thinking, so what is it that a Christian can do to be a leader that will bring those differences in the society?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously there's a part of this discussion that is based on your primary role.
Yes, as a Christian and as a person.
Yeah, as a Christian, as a person, as a father, as a provider, as a husband, all of those things, those have to be solid in your life and put in the proper order. And if there is room, many times if there is room, then that activism comes in.
Yeah.
A lot of times what happens is you have these terrible agendas that really fundamentally are bad for society, but are funded very well.
Yes.
And so people are able to be being a community organizer or a political activist and make good enough money to do it. And they're not providing a lot of value, but they are moving the frame of the discussion. The Overton window, a little left, a little right, a little this way, towards this more acceptability of all this crazy stuff that is upon this agenda. And so we as Christians and we as believers really have this responsibility. We have this opportunity and responsibility, I think, to engage whenever possible.
Yes.
We already have a awesome network and an awesome community within the church, in a healthy church.
Yeah.
That it's like, hey, listen, we understand Scripture the same way. We believe the same things, which then lives out in similar or the same way. We need to fight against these XYZ terrible things that are going to compromise our view of the value of life. They're going to compromise our view of the value of education. They're going to compromise our view of the value of the environment.
And that's why I think we should encourage many young people who are Christian, and I think churches should encourage their the congregants who are interested in this top position, because it's good for the society, for the laws that are being created. Like, if you're of good morals, the laws tend to be good. And I think that is the.
But in that, I think fundamentally that it's not just like of good morals, that you're coming from a foundation.
Yeah.
Because similar to a lawyer interacting with the law, morality interacting with reason can lead to a lot of compromise.
True.
So again, it plays back to that foundation. And are you saying that Christians are the only one that can rule? No, I'm not saying that.
No, we're not saying that.
But I'm saying that the Christians have the best foundation for the most people to flourish, because that foundation is from God, and He has established a foundation for everyone.
And sometimes I normally tell people that I can argue about a number of constitutions that are there in the world that were based on the principle of the Bible. And again, Satan is just over time. Just destroying and using all of the freedoms that have been provided to cause compromise, then to cause dissent, to cause division, and then to cause destruction. And so again, I think that our battlefront as Christians, I think initially, and it always has to begin with prayer. It's so easy to forget and jump into action. And, we look at verses like, how can you say to a brother, go and be warm, and you have a cloak that you can give him? You're like, come on, you got to do something. And I think that those things have to be paired. It's not one or the other. Like, do I pray for this person, or do I do something about their suffering, or do I try to change the system that is oppressing them? You have to be practical in some instant, as Jesus was.
But practical. I think we cannot compromise on the prayer side of things.
Yes.
I mean, I just heard a testimony last night of somebody was like, they were told, hey, you need to interact with this person. They're going through a difficult time. They didn't know how. Maybe they let their fear control them a little bit on being able to jump into that conversation with the person, but they were adamant about praying for them. And they got to a point where then that person then invited them and said, here's what I want. And it was all the stuff that they were praying for, and it was all the stuff that the person needed. Like, I need people around me that will love and support me, which the people that were already loving and supporting her through prayer had been praying for her, that she would join them in a formal and in an intimate way. And so it's like, we cannot say or slip into this thinking that our action is what dictates the future. It's like, we are serving a God that is able to accomplish everything without us.
Yes.
But just like He has, there's a whole different theology here. Just like he is in heavenly council and with the angels has utilized them in carrying out tasks. Go do this, send this message, all of that kind of things, rule this area. He calls us to join His family and to carry out His will. Even though, yes, I mean, he literally spoke everything into existence.
Yeah.
You've been able to do that?
And he can do.
Have you been able to do that? You said yes. You're able to do that.
I'm saying he's able to speak anything into.
But can you?
I cannot.
Yeah, exactly. Who do you
Hey.
know that can?
No one.
I mean, some people might say artists, they can make up a rap, blah, blah, blah. But what are they rapping about? Like, it all comes from the foundation of God that's speaking.
Yeah, true.
He's this power, and he's inviting us to join. Because it's easy to demonstrate,
Muscle.
look at this, I can do this.
Yeah.
It's much harder to demonstrate, this person loves me, they will do it for me because I am good. It's a different kind of glory that God gets from exercising his power and his strength, and another type of building a relationship and essentially allowing his love to be exercised through us.
Through us.
That I will, there are people that they give their life, literal life, not just I'm going to go do this for a long time, a large portion of my life, but I'm going to go and then die.
When you're speaking about that, now this you created in his image, that now even sinks home now, because his image is love. His image is actionable things that when he spoke, let there be sun, let there be light. Like us, we participate in that entire spectrum of how we display our love. It's through him. It's literally we are mimicking him in displaying this kind of love. That thing that you that has just sink in, that image that we talk about.
And I think even the way that we see that God governed the Israelites, the way that we see that God governs the church and has interacted with his people, is an excellent foundation for Christians to remember and to focus on when they are looking to govern. That yes, this rule may be harsh, but why is it there? Because I want my people to flourish, and this protects them from it.
Yes.
It is freeing from this burden that comes with this action. It's okay, that's not a terrible thing.
Yeah, it is.
But then also we have to, inside of that balance, it's we have to remember God gave us the ability to disobey.
Ooh.
It comes with consequences. So it's okay, as government, do we take steps further than what God did? Or do we take steps that are in line with what God did? Or do we just try to formulate and flourish a culture that informs people of what is best? And it's there's a lot to, and I think different roles in government have to operate differently. Obviously, your police officer is going to be behaved and focused on carrying out the law in a different way than an MP is. Not because an MP or a senator can be corrupt or do whatever they want, but they are not worried about, did you throw that piece of trash out of your car and make our country more dirty? And if so, then I'm going to give you a fine. But it's on a larger scale. They're looking at how do we create laws that people will want to obey and see the benefit from them.
From them, yeah, true. And how will those laws be enforced by these guys who enforce
who are the police officers on the front line?
Yes.
And man, being in politics in Kenya, I think would be so hard.
Why?
Because you have, I think the temptation is more, I don't want to say direct, but upfront. It's just hey, if you do this, you get it. You get this. Straight away, you get this.
For example, if you're here, and probably there's, they involve in a number of things, like tendering, those kind of things. Are they in the U.S.?
What is tendering? Explain.
It's government offers. Avenue.
Bidding for companies.
Yeah, bidding for companies.
Who is going to build this road?
Yeah, who's going to build this road? Of course,
it's going to be my friend.
Yeah.
Who has 2 employees in his construction company, but they're gonna build this 100-kilometer road. What? Why not the company that has built 6 other roads that are 10,000 kilometers each?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we use them?
Yeah.
And because this is my friend.
You see, when that aspect was being introduced in the society with the late President Kibaki, because it's when that was introduced around. The reason was to bring the society almost at par. Like those who cannot afford some things, they could also go and bid for an
Like,
opportunity.
I can do this job if you give me this much money, because if I have
Yes.
this much money, then I can buy the equipment to do the job.
And the government knew you're like going just to buy this thing at a different place, selling to them. But like at least they've put a markup of a profit of like almost about 35% when you come and sell it to us. But like you see now, you being a member of parliament with no morality, you'll not allow other people, you'll not allow that process to be fair. And if you are Christian in that position, those are the kind of things that you need to allow to be fair, because you'll not allow that to be fair because I can get you, Taylor. I tell you, open a company. I tell you, bid. But like that money is coming still to
At least half comes to me.
Yeah, to benefit me.
I need to eat.
Instead of benefiting the entire society.
Yeah, and that's fundamentally that's the focus that you have to remain on in that situation, because people might say, well, that's part of the job. They're just helping themselves like they're supposed to, or like they're allowed to, or they have the power to. And it's like,
And I think
no,
that's why
I
you're
think when
saying it's
people
hard
cast
here.
their vote, they were casting that vote for something to be done for the larger society.
Yes.
We want this road to come through or to our community.
Yes.
We want it to be done well so that our the economy in this area can grow with manufacturing or grow with tourism.
Yeah.
But instead, you did half of the road
Yeah.
because you ate the other half.
Yeah.
And the road that did get made, oh my gosh,
half is good. Like
With
probably 80%.
with the flooding in
Yeah.
2022,
Yeah.
I saw videos, not 2022, sorry, 2024. I
Yeah.
saw videos of this road that was just completely washed out, right? Not like a huge section, but like maybe like 5 yards, like 15 feet-ish, was just a chasm in the middle of the road. But no one had fallen in, no one had drove in, anything like that. So it was like a giant blessing in that respect. But the crazy thing, it was a tarmacked road. But you were able to see a cross-section of that tarmacked road.
And with the flooding that you're talking about, we had quite a lot of, most roads were damaged, meaning they were not done properly. Meaning,
And you could,
Yeah.
when you saw the cross-section, where
Yes.
essentially like the road was cut in half and you could see all the layers,
Yeah.
you saw that tarmac
Yeah.
was not even this thick.
yeah, true.
It literally, it was like a quarter of an inch. I don't even know what that is in millimeters. It was so
Tiny.
thin. That's the first thing when I sent the picture and showed some people the video of this road washed out. That was the first thing they said. What is that paper for a road? Because it wasn't even like below that. Then you had what is it? The cococho, whatever. The large stones.
Kokoto.
Yeah, cocotos, the large stones, and then you have the smaller,
Yeah.
the gravel,
Yeah,
the
the
filler in
gravels.
between, and then
Yeah.
you have, wasn't any of that. It was literally just like mounded dirt with a tiny layer of asphalt over the top.
It's because someone gave his friend to do the job. And that's why we are talking about Christian leadership. And we are saying we need, it's not just in politics, it's in high places.
Even in business.
Even in
But
business.
to focus on the political side
Yeah.
of it, like creating that environment where
Yeah.
that tendering process
Yes.
is fair,
Yeah.
is for the good of your people,
Yes.
the people.
Yeah, and that was the beautiful reason for that. And you knew this tendering and bidding process was coming to help the society at large. And you're going to get the most qualified person. And that's why you see, like, it's not that the Chinese contractors are better than Kenyan contractors. It's just because some of those Chinese contractors are not taking shortcuts. And many of these Kenyan contractor, and you will be so surprised, some of those contractors and some of these leaders that are taking the wrong people on board are Christian, and we fellowship with them in church every single Sunday, every other day of the week. And it's something that we need to call out, and we encourage Christian in this spectrum. Because if more Christian and upright people are in this institution, I normally believe Kenya has a potential of being a first world country if it's well run. And
Oh, yeah.
because like
completely
if you compare Kenya to previous country like Korea, South Korea, that are doing really well, Japan, there's a point Kenya and Japan was at par. And now the difference is big now because of the
Japan's like the 8th largest economy in the world, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Tiny little country with
Tiny.
a population that's collapsing, and they're still just killing the economic.
is because of good leadership, good governance, and the less toleration of corruption. I know, like, probably there might be some type of corruption there, but like,
It exists everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
don't think for one moment that it doesn't exist.
but like,
Everywhere.
it's that those places are working for their citizens, those people that trusted them. The way you said, you go in as a member of parliament asking for votes. You've made the entire community trust you to represent them. You've allowed God to trust you to represent these people, and then you fail the two.
So I wonder, I'm thinking, both in America and in Kenya,
Yeah,
if tolerance is actually a core part of the problem.
for me, I think that's the core part of the problem. Tolerance. I agree with that thought, because we tolerate a lot of bad things.
And
And-
then you allow
Yeah.
your police to pull over.
Yeah.
Ask you for money.
Yeah, because like if I'm pulled over and I'm in a rush and I just know, like, I'll be driving a car just knowing it's broken and it needs to go to the mechanic, and I know when I'm driving that car I'm endangering many people on that road that I'm using. But like, I know if I'm stopped by a police officer, I'll just give like probably
Kidogo.
yeah, I'll grease the napeana kitu kidogo. So I'll just know that, and I'll just go. I'll do that until to a point where it breaks down or it does something bad. So it means we are tolerant. And sometimes they normally say leadership is the reflection of a society. Sometimes, because like it's more to do with if I, as Eric, is put in that particular place, do I become complacent with what's happening, or do I come there with an eager to change, rectify, and do things in a different way? By not giving that police a bribe, I've started the change. I really don't need to be in a political position to be able to effect that change. As a Christian who believes and God comes first in my life, that's the first thing that comes first in my life, I should first of all be aspiring to please him first. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like, he is my authority. Before I, like, by me pleasing him, it means I'll just do what I'm required to do, and I'll do it with reverence to my God. That's what has been happening for many years in the political realm, where you still have this Christian and that's why it's easy for our politician to throw the name of God about and yet forget that they're supposed to honor that name that they're throwing about in coming
I think
up.
they forget.
Maybe they forget. I think they forget.
Oops.
I think they forget.
Sorry, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I'm assuming you'll not forget to feed your kids. Probably I don't know if it's a mental problem, a mental blocking problem. So maybe something else need to be done.
And I think Kenya and America is experiencing it more and more, is that like in this process of election or governance or creation of governance, like we get so manipulated by by the frames or boxes or tribes that people put us in.
Yeah.
Well, your last name is Odingo. That means that you are this tribe. That means you will vote this way for this person because you're this tribe.
That's something that you mentioned that was really intriguing, where like we're still talking about change, and yet, if I'm in Central, like we say, we are all Kenyans, but like if a Luhya goes and vie for a political seat in Central Kenya, I don't think they'll elect him, because they'll say this is not our person. He does not speak our language, but this person is Kenyan.
Yeah, but I mean, and the point I'm getting at is that our foundation and our tribe is not anything of this earth. Our
Yes.
citizenship is in heaven, and that is the party that we are part of. And so what I think happens is that we get focused on what is here,
Yeah.
and then we begin to totally focus and identify with that. That I identify as a Republican, or I identify as a Democrat, or I identify as a Green Party, or I identify as UDA, or Jubilee, or whatever it is. Because, no, it's like, listen, I'm a Christian. Whoever you put forth
Yes.
had better be in line with the things that I believe, or they don't have a chance at my vote. Doesn't matter what tribe I am. Doesn't matter what political party you are. I vote based on what I know to be true.
The ideology that
and
are
the Bible.
good, and the ideology that resonate with the Bible. You cannot like be introducing things that are really contrary to my beliefs, and then I still go ahead and say, I did not have an option. I had to vote for you. No.
Yeah, and we look and we say, okay, what is this person? And this is the other part. It's like, you get to choose Caesar, which Caesar you have, right?
Yes.
You don't always get to choose which Caesar you get to select from. So there is this, people are like, oh, well, both candidates are terrible. I'm not voting. And it's like, I think there is a position to say that, because I'm not going to put a rubber stamp on either of these people and say that they are something I'm putting my vote towards. Like, I get that moral position, but then on the flip side, it's like, but you do get to weigh them. You do get to look at them and judge. Does this person, one, say the things? Do they have a record of following through with things? What's the fruit of their ministry and their life? And how do I think that they're going to follow through with that? And then assess, how did they follow through with it?
Yeah, true.
Not just what did they say, and then if they follow through with it and they do even better than you thought, then you can vote for them again.
Yes.
I think the position is weak for saying there's nobody that is running that believes in everything that I am, so I'm not going to vote at all.
Yeah.
I think that position is weak because
Yeah.
it fundamentally allows people who are enthralled and thrilled with maybe the most evil person or to then choose.
And those politics.
It's like, this person has killed 7 people, and this person has killed 4 people. Well, which one do you vote for? Well, they're both murderers. I'm not voting for any. Okay? Yes, I agree. I can understand. They're both murderers. This person has said that the 7 has said that they're going to kill 20 more in office, and this person said that they're going to kill 10 more in office. Well, I can't vote for them. Not only they're both murderers, they said that they're both going to murder more people. Okay. This guy looks cooler and has better music and appeals to the youth more.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't. Which one are you going to go for? Neither, because so you're letting the coolness factor win, even though you know this person is worse and will do worse.
Yeah.
And you had the opportunity to mitigate that to a point. Well, it doesn't really matter. It matters to the 7 other people that aren't going to die.
And true.
And so it's, I know that's a crazy, oversimplified, and ridiculous example. Like, I get it, but sometimes when we boil things down to that simple level and that just kind of one issue or crazy level, it's easier to say, okay, I understand that point.
Yeah.
Because, again, we can get super nuanced and be like, morally, am I saying that this person then is good with my vote? I don't think that's the case when you're voting.
Yeah.
You're deciding to choose who your government. I mean, if you had to choose between Nero and Agrippa,
Trump.
coming all the way up from Judea and him running there, which one do you choose?
I'm just making fun of you, Trump.
They both
Trump and
suck.
Biden.
Which one sucks less? Like, that's really what we're faced with a lot. You know, that I know, especially in America, like, you've got to be kidding me. I don't know how many even Americans I've heard say, like, these are the people we're having to vote between. Like, these people in this position.
Somehow you have to make that decision.
Yeah, and it's crazy, but it's like, okay, but still, that because they're not ideal or even what we might say worthy of that office, they're both still what we have to choose between, or these 5 candidates are what we have to choose between. So I'm going to look. What has this person done? What is this person pushed for? What is this person advocating? How does all of these things line up with the biblical worldview? And then cast your vote accordingly. And then you look to present someone better the next time.
Yeah.
And that's where we're just like, how about after you pass that vote that's really painful and disgusting to pass, that you immediately begin looking for, supporting, and encouraging someone else to run for that position. So it's just, I like right when I think that we're out of time.
Yeah.
But I think that this discussion is fruitful and we'd love to continue. We appreciate you guys watching. I know there's probably at least 700 issues that the rest of you guys want to hear about. The rest of you guys want to dive in on this conversation. Please leave a note. Please leave a comment. Please engage in the conversation below so that we can have future episodes that build a little bit more on specific areas that you want to see.
And I'll also encourage young Christian to vie for this political position so that you can be able to influence some of these laws that are being passed. This is across board in the US, in Kenya. I would love you to participate in this because we're encouraging you young people. Get into this political world. Let us change things let us just change things to be better. I don't think...
be equipped though.
Yeah.
Because it's dangerous. You're going to have lots of temptation. And if you think,
Yes.
I might compromise, then don't do it. Because it can lead you to darkness and destruction. So it's like encouraging people
and as well churches to sponsor guys, to support people, like to propel an individual that they believe
discipleship,
can go
man.
there. Yeah,
Fundamentally.
that discipleship, like not just in the church things, but in political things as well. I think if our churches can push that, encourage young people, and even stand with one leader, us being 80%, those are good numbers.
And then that leader fails.
We
Again, like this just we're just jumping back into conversation because it's good conversation. So we want to thank you. We want to thank you guys for listening today. We look forward to engaging with you. Drop comments below, like, subscribe, all that stuff that we're supposed to say to get followers or whatever. Whatever. We've enjoyed having you, and we look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. There it is.
See you.
We're done.
We're done.